Hi and welcome to Best in Tesla. You might remember the huge milestone that Tesla did with their Tesla Model 3 1 year ago. It became the best-selling car of any kind in Europe in September 2021. It was the first time in history that an electric car had ever held that title. But even more impressive was that it was the first time in history that a non-European car brand had ever claimed that title. So Tesla did something that Ford or GM or Toyota has never been able to do: to have the best-selling car of any kind in Europe in a month. I don't really think this got enough attention, as this was a huge achievement for Tesla, but not many actually reported on it outside the Tesla community. But that was the beginning, and a little warning to the European automakers of what's to come. And now we see the next wave coming from Tesla, the Tesla Model Y. That is taking over now and is quickly becoming the best-selling car in the world. And it is just getting started. So let's take a look at this car and what it did here in September, because it should send shockwaves through the entire car industry if they understand what just hit them. So let's check it all out and let's dive right in. So the Tesla Model Y became the best-selling car of any kind in New Zealand in the month of September. I do believe that was also the first time ever an electric car has taken that title in New Zealand. The Model Y had 1,502 registrations, beating out the Ford Ranger and the Toyota Hilux. Following the Model Y, the second best-selling EV in September was BYD's Otto 3 with 221 registrations, and the MG ZS EV with 178 registrations. So Tesla is dominating the EV race in New Zealand. And just on the other side of the sea in Australia, the Tesla Model Y became the third best-selling car of any kind in September. It nearly doubled the 3,397 vehicles sold in Tesla's previous best month on record, and that was just in August 2022. And the Model Y only just started its sales in Australia in March and is already one of the best-selling cars in the country outright. Actually, Tesla was in September the 7th best-selling car brand in Australia. But how is that possible with only 2 models? In Switzerland, it is not just ramping up in September. The Tesla Model Y is the best-selling car of any kind so far this year, January to September. And the third best-selling car in the country is the Tesla Model 3. Yep, Tesla is just dominating in Switzerland. And in the UK, the Tesla Model Y became the second best-selling car of any kind and is now the 8th best-selling car year to date, even though it only started deliveries in the country in February. And that was of course all Model Ys coming from China, so their numbers were of course also affected by the lockdown we saw in China. So remember, all of these numbers we are talking about here could be higher if it had not been for the lockdown. And the UK is one of the biggest markets here in Europe. But what about the biggest of them all in Europe? Germany. Well, in Germany, the home country of Volkswagen, Audi, BMW, Mercedes, to mention a few of the big German automakers that all claim they will be able to beat Tesla. Well, they just got their ass kicked by Tesla in September, as the Model Y became the best-selling car of any kind in September in Germany. Also, for the first time ever, Europe's biggest car market. And as a BEV, Well, the Model Y simply ruled the market. No competition whatsoever. Even though people like Gordon Johnson are still screaming about the competition that is coming, as he has done for more than half a decade. But look at this chart from September. Model Y sells 2.5 times more than the runner-up, which, by the way, is the Tesla Model 3. That is not made in Europe, so they are all coming from China, so quite a disadvantage compared to the rest of the EV on this list, but still beat them quite a lot. Third place is the combined sales of Volkswagen's ID4 and ID5, and they still only sold 4 times less than the Model Y. And remember, the Berlin factory has just hit the production of 2,000 units a week. As you can see, this is more than any other EV models in Germany sells in a month. And Tesla is still heading for the 5,000 a week for the last week of this year. So, as I talked about in my news show, Tesla should be able to produce about 45,000 units from the Berlin factory for the rest of the year. That is more than most of the competition has sold so far year to date. But one thing to keep in mind is that the Tesla Model Y just beat the Volkswagen Golf. The Golf has been the king of Europe, but I do think we have just seen the beginning of the fall of the king. And the Tesla Model Y is about to take over its kingdom. Because even though the car sales were up compared to September 2021, the petrol-only powertrain saw their second lowest monthly share in the modern era, with 32.2%, nearly equaling last December's all-time low of 32.1%. And we do actually also find the Tesla Model 3 on the top 10 list of best-selling cars in Germany in September. And Tesla is even doing the impossible in Europe. Last year, Tesla ended up being the best-selling EV brand in Europe, even beating the Volkswagen brand on their home turf, and ended up with 13.8% EV market share. And year-to-date, Tesla has 14.3% EV market share. So even though this should be almost impossible, as so much competition is coming to Europe, we are talking about 300 different EV models we can choose from. Tesla is simply growing so fast that they are growing faster than the EV market itself. That should not be possible, but they are doing it. But the Tesla Model Y should have sold about 70,000 units so far in Europe, as we have seen this Tesla unknown from the countries that don't give us the numbers of the different models, but just the total sales of the brand. So here we have to guess what is Model 3s and what is Model Ys. But if we give 20,000 to the Model Y and 13,000 to the Model 3, the Model Y is getting up to about 70,000 units. And even if we give the Fiat 500e all Fiats unknown, it will still only reach less than half of the sales of the Model Y, even though it cost about half the price of the Model Y as well. But that was the biggest market in Europe. What about the biggest market of them all? China. Well, September happens to be Tesla's strongest month ever in terms of electric car sales in China, according to the Chinese Passenger Car Association. According to the report, the total made in China volume amounted to 83,135, which is 48% more than 1 year ago. A huge new record. Clearly no demand problem here either, Gordon. That is including the expected 5,522 for export. So that means that Tesla China delivered 77,613 vehicles to local customers in September, the second highest on record behind June with its 77,938 vehicles, where Tesla did not export as many cars as Tesla did this September, as in June Tesla was trying to make a big end of the quarter push, so it did not want to export any cars, but just get it out to as many customers in China as fast as possible. So Tesla just delivered about 15,000 more EVs in China in just September than the 63,500 units Volkswagen did deliver in the first half of 2022 in China. Yeah, not really keeping up here. According to Reuters, Tesla is aiming for about 495,000 units of the Model Y and Model 3 in Q4, but it does seem very possible when we put all the numbers together. We hear Tesla China is expecting 267,000 units of the Model Y and Model 3. And as I said, I expect about 45,000 units out of the Berlin factory and maybe a bit less from the Texas factory, so maybe about 30,000 units from Texas. So those two factories will make about 75,000 units. So that will be 342,000 units from China, Berlin and Texas combined. That leaves us about 153,000 units from Fremont for the last quarter. Well, that would only be just less of 12,000 units a week. That Fremont reported a couple of weeks back that they had already hit and is aiming for 14,000 units for the last week of the year. So it should be very possible for Tesla to hit their 495,000 units for the Model Y and 3, as Tesla will probably not make much more than 20,000 Model S and X in Q4. So if we see no lockdown or other hiccups for the rest of the year, Tesla should be able to hit those 500,000 units in production. What a ramp, what a growth! As I showed in my news show, Tesla produced about the same amount in Q2 as Tesla did in all of 2018, or as much in Q3 as of all of 2019. And Q4 seems to hit the same amount of numbers as of all of 2020. Wow, the 2022 ramp is just insane. And that is even held back with the lockdown in China and many supply chain issues. But if Tesla makes 495,000 Model Ys and 3 combined, how many Ys could we see being pushed out for the last quarter? Well, we know that Berlin and the Texas numbers are all going to be Model Ys, so we can take those 75,000 units from the total amount and we end up with 420,000 units. I don't know the split of the Model 3 and Y in Fremont, so we could just say 50-50 there, but we do know that in China they are producing a bit more Ys than 3s, so my guess is that Tesla is producing about 1,800 Model Ys a day and about 1,100 Model 3s a day. That will add up to the 267,000 units we heard they are aiming for. So if we add all those Model Ys together, Tesla should deliver about 307,000 Model Ys in Q4 alone. That is just bananas. So far, Tesla had produced in 2022 about 879,346 Model Ys and 3s combined. If we say the share between the two models is the same as I expect for the rest of the year, about 62% Model Ys and 38% Model 3s, just to make it easy, that means that approximately 545,000 Model Ys has been sold in the first 3 quarters of 2022. And then we add the 307,000 units and we end up with 852,000 units of Model Ys sold in 2022. So this single model will sell more units than the entire Volkswagen Group combined sales of all their many models of their IDs and their e-trons and their Enyaqs and so on and so on. Yeah, only BYD is going to come close to these numbers of BEVs sold in all of 2022, with their many models combined. So I think the Model Y could very well sell more units here in 2022 than any other BEV maker is able to sell. Even if we take groups like Volkswagen or Stellantis or Hyundai Kia, I don't think anyone will get over 850,000 units in 2022. But sure, GM, show us some more models that are coming. I am willing to bet that the Model Y, all on its lonesome, will be able to beat GM's 2 million target in 2025. Tesla will sell more Model Ys in 2025 than GM would sell of all their 20 EV models combined globally. So that is my bet. What do you think? So it might not be the best-selling car in 2022 in units, as we last year had the Toyota Corolla sitting on the number 1 spot with 1.1 million units. Second was Toyota's RAV4 with 1 million, and third was Ford F-150 series with 860,000 units. But we have seen them going down in overall sales this year as the ICE sales are collapsing. So I would expect those cars to be less in units this year. We also saw in the first half of 2022 that the RAV4 sales are also shifting. The amount of hybrids rose from 24% to 43.2%, and the ICE version fell from 72% to 52%. So we clearly see what is happening. The ICE sales are collapsing. So maybe it will be able to stay at about 1 million units in 2022, as it looks like Toyota is able to just shift from ICE to hybrid right now. But we will see how it all goes. But Ford is seeing a lot of problems with sales and supply chain issues and getting parts for their cars. So Tesla's Model Y could very well beat the F-150 series and become the world's third best-selling car of any kind in 2022. This should send shockwaves through the automotive industry, because that also means that Elon will probably be right, as the Model Y is not a cheap car and is a bit more expensive than the RAV4. It will probably be the world's best-selling car when we look at revenue. And when we look at profit, yeah, no other car on the planet will come even close. Toyota earns about 5% on their Corolla and RAV4, and Tesla earns something like 25% on their Model Y. So yes, the Tesla Model Y, the car that Mark B. Spiegel called vaporware.
This is sort of the vaporware Tesla Model Y that we will probably never see.
Well, Mark, we did see it, and is now one of the 3 best-selling cars of any kind in the world in units, and will no doubt be the most profitable car on the planet in 2022, and will outsell everyone and everything in 2023. Even with all the 300 models that are out now and competition that is no longer coming but is already out there. But no one is even close to catching up with the Tesla Model Y. It will be the new king of the road, taking over from the Golf in Europe and the Corolla on a global scale.
And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.